Banking, Unsecured Creditors, Section 1. In these two videos, I'm going to be talking about your legal status with regard to any accounts you might have in banks. So let's begin. I'm fairly sure I'm right in saying that when most people hear this next statement, they might be somewhat surprised. When you put money into your bank account, the money is no longer yours. Permit me to explain. In legal terms, you're regarded as an unsecured creditor. The definition of an unsecured creditor in Investopedia is an individual or institution that lends money without obtaining specific assets as collateral. Let's consider the creditor aspect first, and then we can come back to the collateral and unsecured aspects directly afterwards. In legal terms, as an unsecured creditor, you are regarded as an investor. When you deposit some money into an account, you're making an investment with the bank. I'm sure I'm right in saying that the vast majority of people don't think anything about the legal implications of putting money into a bank account. I dare say that such things are simply not considerations when you go and put money into your account. However, if you did happen, for whatever reason, to give the matter any thought, you would probably not believe yourself to be an investor. You would, in all likelihood, believe yourself to be just a depositor. But be advised, it matters not a jot what you believe yourself to be. You are an investor. That is how you're regarded by the banks and in the eyes of the law. That is your legal status. So you have to set aside any beliefs to the contrary. Facts trump belief. So you might well believe that the money is yours. After all, it's your bank account, but it's not yours. By putting money into a bank, you're giving the bank credit. You are, in essence, offering the bank a line of credit. Let's now consider the collateral aspect. I'm sure you all know what collateral is, but in the ordinary course of events, when you take out a mortgage with a bank, the bank will always hold your house as collateral for the mortgage. This is done in the event of you defaulting on the debt. The house then acts as a guarantee for the mortgage. It's a hard asset that the bank can lay claim on should there be any significant problems with repayments. Likewise, when you want to get a car but haven't got sufficient funds to pay for it, instead of taking out a loan with a bank, you might sign a hire purchase agreement with a car dealership. They then are entitled to take possession of the car if you fail to make the repayments. The car then is collateral and acts as a guarantee for the car dealership. Let's now consider the unsecured aspect. Unsecured basically means you have no collateral to act as a guarantee for your investment. The definition of an unsecured creditor in Investopedia goes on to say this poses a higher risk to the creditor because it will have nothing to fall back on should the borrower default on the loan. Let's now look at investing and risk. Investing comes with risks. It's never without risk. Risk must be factored into the investor's deliberations when they're wanting to invest in something. Indeed, an investor will usually make an assessment on a risk-return basis. An investor will expect something in return for his initial investment based on the level of risk involved. As a rule of thumb, when the risk is high, the investor will expect a greater return for the money invested. And conversely, when the risk is low, the investor will expect a lesser return for the money invested. Return is commonly referred to as yield. High risk demands higher yield. An investor will want to be rewarded with a higher yield for taking a higher risk, and vice versa. To give you an easy to understand example, the US government treasury bonds are low risk, low yield. Why? Because the US government has been regarded as safe in the past. So, as a result, the risks are low and the yields are low. There is a lower yield on the initial investment. The interest rates on US government treasury bonds have been historically low. US treasury bonds might go to make up the safer proportion of an investment portfolio. But what about Argentinian government treasury bonds? They cannot be considered as being low risk. The Argentinian government cannot be regarded as being safe, at least not as safe as the US government, historically speaking. So, because the risks are high, the yields have to be high also. In order for the Argentinian government to entice investors, they have to have high interest rates attached to their government treasury bonds. There is then a higher yield on the initial investment. Forgive me if any of this is entirely evident to you already. My intention is not to be patronising. In order to avoid any confusion or misunderstandings, it's best that everything gets explicitly expressed and stated as clearly as possible. I've split this topic into 2 videos, so there's another one to follow.